Hello, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I'm Hugh McKay, past president of the City Club and partner in charge at Porter Wright, where I have the honor of working with today's speaker, Kevin Kelley, president of the Cleveland City Council. Earlier this year, Councilman Kelley was unanimously elected to this leadership post, and his appearance today at the City Club is a rite of passage of sorts. For over 100 years, city leaders, be they mayors or council presidents, have consistently spoken from this podium to share their views and their vision with this community. There's no doubt that Cleveland is experiencing a renaissance. As has been mentioned, our city has been chosen to host the 2016 Republican National Convention. We're about to host the Gay Games, and the downtown is looking better and better with continued improvements in University Circle, the Flats, the Lakefront, Public Square, the malls, Playhouse Square, the Opportunity Corridor. The list goes on, and there are many more to mention. The future is bright, and it is a great time to be a Clevelander, and hopefully LeBron will agree. So in many respects, this is also a very good time to be leading Cleveland City Council. But there are, of course, challenges. The economic growth fueling all of our collective optimism has not penetrated every neighborhood. Public education transformation that will fuel future economic growth must still gain more traction and produce better results. Our City Council has come under scrutiny for its practices regarding consultants. Suffice to say, there are still many potholes, literally and figuratively. But Council President Kelley knows our challenges and opportunities as well as anyone. He has represented the Old Brooklyn neighborhood as a member of Cleveland City Council since 2005, served as Majority Whip until last year. He has chaired the Aviation and Transportation, Public Utilities, and Finance Committees. As Ward 13's councilman, he has worked to create Old Brooklyn Connected. It's an effort to bring free, high-speed internet access to the entire community. And this is a typical example of his energy and his vision. Council President Kelley's exemplary public service career began following his graduation from Marquette University, and he then volunteered at the West Side Catholic Center as a member of the Jesuit Volunteers Corps. He later worked at Recovery Resources, assisting mentally ill adults, while earning his master's degree from Case Western Reserve University. And while working full-time during the day, Kelley began his legal studies at Cleveland Marshall College of Law, from which he graduated magna cum laude after serving as managing editor of the Cleveland State Law Review. In addition to his role with the city, I'm proud to say he is of counsel with Porter Wright. Ladies and gentlemen, assembled Clevelanders, please welcome Cleveland City Council President Kevin J. Kelley.
Thank you. Thank you, Hugh. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Dan Multhrop for inviting me to speak at the City Club today. And I want to invite all of you who are in attendance today for coming here to join in a discussion of the future of our great city. I also want to thank Mayor Jackson and his cabinet. I want to thank my council colleagues with whom I'm proud to serve. I want to thank my colleagues from Porter Wright and other friends and community leaders that are with us today. I especially want to thank my beautiful wife, Elizabeth, who is here with our 4 children. And I do have 5, but 4 out of 5 in politics are good numbers. It's a good day for a dad because the 4 that came, they came willingly. It wasn't one of those, do I have to go? And when I said hello and I kind of offered a kiss, they gave me a head lean. So it's a good day. So thank you, ladies. Your dad loves you. Nice face. I am truly honored and humbled to be speaking at the City Club of Cleveland today. And I'm honored to be sharing the same stage as such esteemed historical figures as Franklin Roosevelt, Bobby Kennedy, Bill Clinton, and Condoleezza Rice. You may notice I threw a Republican name in there because we're friends now. And just as I'm honored to be on this stage, I am honored every day to have been elected as president of Cleveland City Council. I'm a very proud member of this body, and while the news stories fail to report this, Cleveland City Council is an extremely talented, progressive, and thoughtful group of legislators. For example, on our leadership team, our majority leader, Phyllis Cleveland, is a lawyer, a former assistant prosecutor, and a former magistrate. Council's Majority Whip, Terrell Pruitt, is a major in the United States Army National Guard who's done tours in Afghanistan and done hurricane relief in Louisiana. He also happens to be working on his master's degree. Collectively, Council has 6 lawyers, 4 of whom are former prosecutors, 15 hold bachelor's degrees, and 2 hold master's degrees. And City Council members have a unique perspective as representatives of every ward and neighborhood and personally experience the impact of the issues facing our community. We feel the impact facing the community, the city, and the neighborhoods that we serve. And your Cleveland City Council is committed to building a strong, safe, and vibrant community, a place where families see a future, a place where business sees as a wise investment, and a Cleveland that we can all have what Newton D. Baker once called civitism, a love of place. But to get to this future that I envision and we envision, we have to take a look at where we've been so we can see where we're going. We are just recovering from some of the worst economic times of most of our lifetimes. The recent recession was extremely challenging for the city of Cleveland. We were left to deal with unemployment, loss of our tax base, and abandonment left in the wake of the foreclosure crisis. To make matters worse, the state of Ohio chose to balance its budget on the backs of local governments. So challenging were these times that some municipalities filed for bankruptcy. Some municipalities stopped providing essential services to its citizens, but not Cleveland. Under the steady leadership of Mayor Jackson and this council, we made hard decisions. We made responsible decisions. We endured layoffs. We, including council, took pay cuts. And in doing so, and by doing so, Cleveland continued to pass balanced budgets and continue to deliver quality services to our residents. Not only did we continue delivering services and balancing budgets during difficult times, but by demonstrating fiscal discipline, we were able to keep projects alive and invest in our community when access to private capital had all but dried up. In fact, if you look back on all the major projects that have taken place recently in Cleveland, many during the recession, whether it's the Flats East Bank, Uptown, the 668 building, Phase 2 of Steelyard Commons, just to name a few, I challenge anyone in this room to name a major development project in the city where the city of Cleveland has not been an essential partner in development. Take, for example, the Flats East Bank project, now a shining gem on the banks of the Cuyahoga. In 2008, during the global credit crisis, this project was suspended. But the city, working with the state, working with the county, provided essential gap funding to keep this project alive. Today, this project is booking tenants. There's over 90% filled. There are restaurants there, and they've just started Phase 2, which is the residential portion of the Flats East Bank project. So yes, the recession was tough. Yes, we made unpleasant decisions. But because of how we conducted the affairs of this city, we were able to be a catalyst for progress. The city faced the worst of times, and we're coming out of them stronger. And where are we today? Let's start by just taking a look around. The downtown neighborhood is seeing a rebirth. It has 5 new hotels, restaurants, attractions, new commercial space, new retail outlets, and residential livings. But it's not only downtown that is seeing a rebirth. Our neighborhoods are also experiencing growth and investment as well. From Cam's Corner across the city to the Waterloo Arts District, investment in our neighborhoods is taking place. And whether it's Gordon Square, Trailside Slavic Village, or Upper Chester, none of these investments would have taken place without the hard work of the city of Cleveland and the hard work of the local councilperson. And you know what? These investments are paying off. And some of the projects that we as a community have been talking about for years, whether it's the Interbelt Bridge, the West Shoreway, the Flats East Bank, the casino, and many others, are finally coming to fruition, and they're finally bearing fruit for the city of Cleveland. Now, the evidence of recovery started as anecdotal. During the depths of the recession, it seemed that there were less people on the streets, there were less people in restaurants, and a general lack of vitality. But as the recession eased, I began to see more people on the streets. I began to see more people dining in restaurants, and it felt like progress was happening. But it wasn't until I saw that the City of Cleveland's income tax revenues were trending upwards each year since 2011, that I knew that progress is really taking place. Because let's face it, nobody pays income taxes voluntarily. You pay income taxes because you're working. So at that point, I knew that the sacrifice that we as a city, that we as a community made in scarce times, and the investment we made in downtown and neighborhoods was creating real jobs. In fact, there is over $7 billion in investment in projects that have either recently completed, are in process, or are waiting to break ground. From Battery Park to League Park, investment is taking place in our neighborhoods and in our downtown. But let me focus on downtown for just a second. Downtown is an exciting place to be, thanks in large part to Councilman Simperman. It's got new restaurants, it's got new office towers, and new housing options. So of course, people want to be a part of this. People want to live downtown. Young people, empty nesters want to live downtown. But if you want to live downtown right now, you will likely have a waiting list. Now, if you would have told me 10 or even 5 years ago that the demand for living in downtown Cleveland would have exceeded capacity, I would have told you that you're dreaming. But you know what? That's exactly what we have. We have more people wanting to live downtown than we can accommodate. Now, that is a great problem to have. And as I mentioned earlier, some of the projects we've discussed for years are coming to fruition, and these projects are creating synergy and leading to additional investment. In just the first 6 months since I was elected council president, this council approved the Lakefront Development Plan, which is a 28-acre plan featuring 1,000 apartments, 80,000 square feet of office space, retail, restaurants, and a boardwalk. Beyond downtown, the Shops of Clifton was the first major development at the 117th and Lake neighborhood for over 100 years. And after years in the planning process, City Council gave legislative authority to proceed with the Opportunity Corridor, which will connect I-490 to University Circle and provide better access to Cleveland's medical and cultural institutions. And there are many other neighborhood-based projects taking place as we speak. For example, Trailside Slavic Village is a new 95-unit market-rate housing development adjacent to Morgana Run Trail. The Slavic Village Recovery Project is a partnership of Forest City Enterprises, RAK Enterprises, Slavic Village Development, and Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. This will renovate 200 homes and make them available for first-time homebuyers. So things are going on. There are great things happening in the city. But with all this progress that's going on, we're left with a simple question. What does this mean for the future? And what role will Cleveland City Council play in the future? Well, I see a very bright future, but not a future without significant challenges. Challenges that need to be solved if we truly are to move this city forward. And Cleveland City Council will be both a partner in continued growth and development, as well as a voice and an advocate for the larger social issues that face our community. Council will continue to be a partner in progress. When you hear about groundbreakings of the major projects, or even the smaller projects that's happening, you often don't read about the backstory and the behind-the-scenes work that it took to get the project where it was. For example, when we read of the new retail at the Shops of Clifton, anybody who's from the West Side or has even heard of the West Side knows what a challenging site that it was on 117th and Lake, where the church was. But you'll read that the groundbreaking happens, you'll read that it was passed, but you didn't read about the dozens of community meetings hosted by Councilman Zone to get community input, to come up with a plan. How do we preserve history, but how do we also move forward with new retail options, a new market rate grocery store, as well as upscale market rate housing? How do you do that? How do you involve the community? And what needs to happen before you can take that legislation and move it forward? You don't hear about that. Councilwoman Mitchell is currently reviewing all the legislative steps that is going to be necessary to make the One University Circle project a reality. This is a proposed development of a 280 high-end residential units in the University Circle neighborhood, and Councilwoman Mitchell is going to be shepherding that through council. And all of the work that Councilwoman Brady is doing from the Variety Theater, when it opens, there won't be a publication long enough to document each step she took in trying to make that a reality. And all of the great ideas of the Group Plan Commission, including a remade public square, none of this can succeed without an engaged council. But we have been there in the past as partners, and we will be there in the future. Keep in mind that all of the successes that I mentioned did not come from the work of one council person or a single organization. They are all public-private partnerships that occurred because the community came together to make them happen. The mayor's office, the council, business, labor, and our nonprofit community. And working together is the only way forward. Let's begin with City Hall. I can assure you that your mayor and council have a strong working relationship. And while we don't always agree, we always resolve matters in a way that puts citizens before politics and the progress of the city before any personal agendas. This cooperation between the mayor and council gives the business community, labor, and our nonprofit friends confidence that City Hall is moving in the same direction. And due to this reliable relationship, Cleveland has experienced an unprecedented pace of growth and investment. As I mentioned before, we absolutely have to continue the current environment that encourages investment, encourages job creation, and encourages growth in Cleveland. But we also have to take a hard, sober look at some of the challenges that our community faces. Gun violence, abandonment in our neighborhoods, poor performing schools, and a lack of opportunities must be collectively addressed and solved if we are truly to move this city forward. We need to look at our recent successes to find the path to solve these problems. We recently saw how a broad coalition of diverse interests reformed public education in Cleveland, resuscitated the Flatseas Bank project, and transformed our lakefront parks from a disgrace into another jewel in the emerald necklace. Thank you, Brian. We just recently saw how a coalition of business, government, and nonprofits could put politics aside and bring the Republican National Convention to Cleveland. Now, for those of you who were at the press conference, there was a theme that kept coming through. It was the teamwork that we showed. It was the excitement. It was the commitment that we showed. Well, we need those same players, and we need that same spirit of cooperation to work together to solve the critical issues that threaten the progress of our community, including developing a skilled workforce, dealing with blighted, vacant, and abandoned houses, gun violence, and aging infrastructure, and our community's health. Take for starters workforce development. Nothing is more important to secure the future of the city of Cleveland than developing a workforce with the skills needed to compete in the economy and matching our workforce with available jobs. Certainly the business community has an interest in a skilled, educated workforce. Certainly organized labor has an interest in having a strong pool of qualified candidates as members of their local. And we, as elected officials, absolutely have an interest in an educated, employable workforce to live and invest in our neighborhoods. We have a strong manufacturing base, but we need to make sure we're training the workforce to meet the needs of our emerging and continuing manufacturing base. Recently built in the Industrial Valley, Heitman Steel and Steel Warehouse, along with a growing ArcelorMittal Steel, represent a vibrant manufacturing industry. But we have to make sure that we have the workforce to meet their needs. And Council has already begun to address the issue of workforce development. Councilwoman Phyllis Cleveland has identified areas where Council can team up with industry, small business, Cuyahoga Community College, and the Cleveland schools, and with other government agencies to help our jobs secure the jobs of the future. Cleveland must educate and train a workforce that is prepared for jobs in healthcare, technology, engineering, and teaching, as well as manufacturing and the skilled trades. We will work with the Cleveland Municipal Schools and others to encourage young people to enroll in such programs as Cuyahoga Community College's Skills Right Now program. That is a skilled manufacturing program. We will look to align our curriculum with future jobs, encouraging future apprenticeships and looking for incentives to hire Cleveland residents. Cleveland cannot and will not will not continue to attract new jobs without a well-trained workforce. Surely this is an issue that we can apply the same commitment, the same energy, the same spirit of cooperation that brought us the Republican National Convention, that brought us the Cleveland Plan, that kept certain projects alive. We can apply that same team building, that same coalition, that same commitment, that same drive to our workforce development. In addition to developing a skilled workforce, we all have a common interest in the elimination of blight and stabilization and the decrease of our property values, and the stabilization of our property values. At the root of neighborhood blight and decline are the scourge of abandoned houses, which lead to foreclosure, increase in crime, and decrease our property values. Fortunately, Council has a nationally recognized expert in this field in Councilman Brancatelli. Councilman Brancatelli has been featured in New York Times Magazine as well as local and national publications. And through the work of Councilman Brancatelli, we've learned the true extent of the problem of vacant and abandoned homes. Council has already commissioned a study to determine the effect of vacant and abandoned homes on foreclosures, crime, and property values. Because of this, Council is setting a goal of working with the Jackson administration to demolish 5,000 homes in the next 4 years. Now, we don't currently have the money for this, and I'm not sure where it's going to come from, but we must find it, and we will. We will accomplish this goal. Council will also continue to work with community development corporations in our Department of Building and Housing to make sure that we're enforcing our housing code and making sure that we're holding landlords responsible for the dilapidated properties that exist in our neighborhoods. In addition to the scourge of vacant and abandoned homes in our neighborhoods, there's another scourge, and that is that of gun violence. Gun violence in this community must stop. This past week's headlines were gut-wrenching. A popular restaurant owner is killed in Cleveland Heights, a 4-year-old is struck in a drive-by shooting, and a 2-year-old was killed by his own father. Gun violence has claimed over 1 life each year in 2014. Let me repeat that. 1 life every week in 2014 was lost to gunfire. And this tally does not include the human suffering that goes along with that, including the human suffering that goes along with that. It's not just a family, but it's also what it does to the neighborhood, what it does to everybody, what it does to us as a community. This is a serious issue that we have to all take very seriously and come up with some solutions. And led by the Chair of Safety, Matt Zone, Cleveland City Council is preparing to review all of Mayor Jackson's recent proposals, as well as look at all of our gun ordinances to assess their effectiveness. We will work with the mayor and this administration on identifying what has proven to work in other communities. We'll establish the most stringent policies allowed by law and do everything in our power to keep guns out of the hands of young people and felons. We can specifically work on more gun buyback programs, mandate gun locks for households with juveniles, and mandate the highest penalties for unlawfully discharging a weapon in the city of Cleveland. It's a problem that has gotten way out of hand, and it's got to be our top priority to solve that. Many of you have also heard or complained about potholes this year, and in Mayor Dexton, you made mention of it. And many of you may have been told that this was a particularly bad winter that led to potholes. But the truth is that potholes aren't the problem. Potholes are a symptom of a larger problem, which is our aging infrastructure. And Cleveland City Council is committed to working with the mayor to first conduct a thorough pavement management study to assess the condition of our roadways and get an estimate of what the cost might be to repair our roadways. We will develop a systematic approach to replacing our aging roadways. Our goal will be to resurface every street in the city of Cleveland on a regularly scheduled basis and, of course, maintain our roads through crack sealing, spot repair, and pothole repair. We'll also work with the county engineer's office to make sure that our bridges are safe and well maintained. Now let's talk about the health of our community. Urban America is faced with some very unique health concerns. And there was a time when the words healthy and Cleveland rarely appeared in the same sentence. But thankfully, Councilman Joe Simperman has made Healthy Cleveland a cause, an initiative, and something that we as a community should strive for. The Healthy Cleveland Initiative is essential for the well-being of our residents. And under the leadership of Councilman Simperman, Council is going to focus on reducing infant mortality, which has unacceptably high rates in Cuyahoga County, dealing with lead poisoning, which is a leading health hazard for young children who can develop lifelong health and learning consequences, raising awareness about opiate abuse and opiate-related deaths that have reached an epidemic proportion in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. And thanks to the advocacy of Councilman Terrell Pruitt, Council will take a lead in helping the significant number of homeless veterans in our community. Council has already taken steps towards implementing its Healthy Cleveland agenda. For example, Cleveland City Council has recently partnered with Clear Channel to raise awareness of the dangers of prescription drug abuse. We want to make sure that first responders in Cleveland carry the antidote medication naloxone, I got that right, which will save the lives of persons who have overdosed from heroin. We will be in discussion with law enforcement. We'll be in discussion with judiciary and the treatment community to try to find a solution for this problem. Now, we absolutely cannot have a discussion about the future of the city of Cleveland without discussing the Cleveland schools and acknowledging the significant problems that face the Cleveland schools. The schools have to succeed. It is our only option. Recently, Mayor Jackson, with the support of council, partnered with the Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Teachers Union, the Cleveland and the Gun Foundations, and state elected officials to pass the Cleveland Plan. This partnership then gave the community the confidence to pass the most recent operating levy. But the work of this coalition that came together is not done. For the Cleveland Plan to truly be a success, we need to create an educational system where every child is educated and where the graduates of the Cleveland schools are prepared to join the workforce of Northeast Ohio. In fact, bridging the gap between job seekers and available jobs is a tremendously important goal that is in everyone's interest, and it is achievable. So I'm asking those that were involved in that partnership, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Teachers Union, the foundations, to work with city government and our schools to assure a properly trained workforce that is prepared for the jobs of the future and to secure the future of the city of Cleveland. Poor performing schools have consequences that go beyond the child and even the family. It has an effect on the entire community. While we see growth, progress, and an influx of new residents in downtown, most neighborhoods of the city of Cleveland and the city of Cleveland in general is losing population. We need to reverse this trend. We need to attract young and middle-class families to move back into the city of Cleveland. To make Cleveland a city of choice, we have to provide quality housing, safety, and high-performing schools. In many neighborhoods, there are projects that are currently going to reverse this trend. They'll serve as a catalyst for new homes and business. I mentioned earlier that Councilwoman Mitchell is working to shepherd the One University Circle process through. I can assure you that Councilman Dow will make sure that Upper Chester stays on track and is of benefit to his community. But council has to work and will continue to work and be laser focused on the problems that are holding some of us back from enjoying our successes. In my neighborhood of Old Brooklyn, I am fortunate to live in a neighborhood with quality housing, low crime, and high-performing schools, as well as easy access to parks and recreational amenities. I don't think twice about letting my kids walk to the store or to the recreation center. And while there are many neighborhoods like mine, there are neighborhoods that lack quality housing, where residents do not have a sense of safety and generally have a lack of opportunities. Every neighborhood and every resident of the city should expect decent housing, quality educational opportunities, and a safe neighborhood. So the challenge before us is how to keep building and developing, but also solving the larger social problems that hinder our development. We as a community must strive to keep the progress and the momentum of the city going, but as Cleveland drives forward, we must leave no citizen and no neighborhood behind. We need to build a community where investment and development flourish, where we look at educating our children as an investment in the future, where quality housing and safe neighborhoods is a basic expectation of everyone. Thank you. So as I look at Cleveland today, I see a city of historic investment and also historic opportunity. Historians look to the year 1912 and the years immediately following as our best years, as our most progressive years. They point to the opening of the Old County Courthouse, West Side Market, the Cleveland Museum of Art, and yes, the founding of the City Club. This time is referred as the high point of the progressive era. But I'll suggest to you that the amount of investment going on in the city today rivals anything that happened then in what is referred to as a progressive era. And if we as a community can apply the same drive, the same passion, the same commitment that we showed in rescuing the Flats East Bank, in passing the Cleveland Plan, in bringing the Republican National Convention to Cleveland, if we can apply this to our pressing social problems, then the city of Cleveland's second progressive era and our best years are now, and the era of 2014 to 2018 will be seen as Cleveland's best ever. Thank you.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we're enjoying a special program with Cleveland City Council President Kevin Kelley. We encourage you to formulate questions for the speaker now and remind you all that your questions should be brief and to the point. We welcome all of you here and those joining us through our primary media partners, 90.3 WCPN, 104.9 WCLV, and WVIZ PBS Idea Stream, or on one of the many other radio stations across the country that carry the City Club programs. Television broadcasts of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. This Friday, July 11th, the City Club welcomes Chris Korleski, Director of the Great Lakes National Program Office. For more information about upcoming programs or to make a reservation or order a DVD or CD of past programs, just go onto our website, cityclub.org. Today's program is sponsored by Northeast Ohio Media Group, City Club's official sponsor of politics and policy programming. We thank you for your support. Today we welcome guests at tables hosted by many organizations and entities across the community. Please refer to your printed program for a complete listing, and we thank you all for your support, and we thank you all for being here. Now, we'd like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from any of you. Holding the microphones today are Associate Director of Advancement Mike Cromaldi and Marketing and Outreach Specialist Kirsten Pianka. First question, please.
Thank you. I guess I covered it.
Council President,
Yes.
we've worked with you as the arts and cultural community for quite some time, and Council has long been a supporter of the arts and cultural community, at least as long as I've been with Community Partnership for Arts and Culture. And you noted that multidimensional problems call for multidimensional solutions that include partners. And so I'm curious as to your perspective on how Cleveland City Council and the arts and cultural community can work together to move forward some of the things that you've talked about, like workforce development, like education, like health in our community and the stabilization of our neighborhoods.
Thank you. And I want to thank you. The council has worked very well with the arts community. I know that in Ward 13 we have a beautiful mural on State Road that was a result of the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Fund. I appreciate that. I think what we need to do is we need to look at, what are the workforce needs of the arts community. We need to first identify those. We need to figure out what is the demand in the workforce for what the arts community can provide, and we need to bring those together. We need to provide opportunities for funding of projects like the mural project that happened. Council has always been a supporter of public arts projects. A lot of our members are very enthusiastic about that, and I think we just need to move forward. But we really just need to identify what jobs are available to the arts community, and how we find the people to fill those.
Councilman, you championed a program in Old Brooklyn where all the residents receive Wi-Fi for free. Any thoughts on expanding that to the city of Cleveland or other areas of the city?
Yes, thank you. John referenced the Old Brooklyn Connected project, which is a free high-speed wireless project for Ward 13. I just recently went with a delegation, including representatives from the mayor's office, One Community, and some other nonprofits to Chattanooga to look at what are the benefits of providing high-speed internet, fiber to the home to every resident. And there's still certain issues we need to study and a few things we need to figure out, but I'm very optimistic that with the fiber network that Cleveland has, that can be the next big thing for Cleveland, and we can really look at developing and maximizing our fiber network to bring jobs, to bring people, and really take Cleveland to the next level. Thank you.
Councilman, as you know, many of us have begin to attend council meetings on Monday evenings from 7 to 8. And the feedback we've gotten from the people who have come is that from a technology standpoint, it's kind of hard to follow the meetings, which is why attendance is very low for city council meetings. And so the question is, how do we take council to the next level from a technical standpoint to where you can attend a council meeting and see how people vote, to bring a new website that actually allows the constituents to be able to interact with council people?
Thank you. Currently, every meeting of Cleveland City Council, every committee meeting is televised on the local access channel and is also streaming live. So any committee meeting, the only meeting that is not streaming live is the Monday meetings, the Monday night meetings, which I'm certainly open to working towards having those stream live. But the real work of council happens in committee. Most of the work, most of the amendments, most of the examination of legislation happens across the hall from council chambers. And that's where, if you really want to look at government and you really want to look how the people, your elected officials are conducting the business of the city of Cleveland, all that information is live, it is streaming, it is on public access TV. But I'm certainly open to that, and I think that we are constantly updating our website, and we will continue to do so. And we appreciate your attendance on the Monday night meetings. Keep bringing your friends.
Council President, welcome. You've always been very enthusiastic and upbeat about the city of Cleveland, which is a great thing. It has spread, and it's been very great for the city. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
My question is about education. You've indicated the great importance of education. One of the things that we have, and we know is here to stay, is charter schools or community schools. And there's private schools, and there's tuition vouchers, and we've got the public schools, of course, which are also very important. Yet there's a tension among all these different groups, and the public schools have this distrust towards the charter schools and vice versa. Is there a way you can see we could bring all these groups together to truly focus on our children?
Yes, that is an excellent question, and it is one that I think, if you look at the relationship between public schools and charter schools, private schools, indeed there used to be a lot of distrust. There used to be a lot of tension between them. I would suggest that that's lessened, and I think that with the passing of the Cleveland Plan and the recent levy, we've kind of gotten beyond whether it's a charter school or it's a public school, or it's a parochial school. I think we've all landed where we need to educate our kids by any means necessary, by whichever school that those parents choose. The recent operating levy that was passed by the citizens of the city of Cleveland, which was part of the Cleveland Plan, championed by Mayor Jackson and supported by council, it contemplated a certain millage not going to not just the public schools, but going to charter schools, going to high-performing charter schools. And I think that was the first step in that relationship that we have to take many more steps towards so we can truly erase those lines and just focus on one thing, and that is how are we best educating our children. Thank you.
President Kelley, thank you very much for the presentation today. The question that I have is an audacious goal to tear down 5,000 houses and
Yes.
where that money is going to come from. Perhaps looking downstate to some of the foreclosure bond issues that some of the cities have done in southern Ohio and hold those who are actually doing the foreclosure responsible for tearing down those houses as opposed to going into the city coffers or using very limited funds would be something to look at.
Thank you. I can assure you that the city of Cleveland has already spent $58 million in tearing down vacant and abandoned houses, and we're out. But we're currently working with Thriving Communities Institute. Councilman Brancatelli is looking every day. We're looking at Attorney General money. If there's a source of funding out there, we will find it and we will apply. We are respectfully watching closely how the county manages whether they're going to make a decision to bond money for demolitions, and I think that would be a positive step because we all benefit from demolition of vacant abandoned houses because every government, whether it's the city or the county, we all rely on property taxes. And as property values rise, we all benefit. So I think that just has to be an initiative. And quite frankly, 5,000 is not enough. There's more. But 5,000 is the number that can get us to where we can see significant investment, we can see improvement. We have to continue finding money, we have to continue attacking this problem. It's not going to go away easy, but we have to be laser focused and we have to look for any source of funds. We have to take down every available house that is vacant, abandoned, and condemned. So thank you.
It's fantastic that we're getting the Republican convention, but I think we now all have to be sure that Cleveland looks great when it happens. What do you think are the biggest challenges to the city and to the people who live here, and how will City Council address it?
The Republican National Convention decision is a great one for Cleveland. One of the Republicans gave Mayor Jackson a red tie. If I were on that stage, I would have, and I had known this was going to happen, I would have given him a green tie because the money's all the same. So I'm looking forward to this happening. And, when you look at those visitors that have come here before and left, they all say Cleveland was a great experience. If you ask Ivan Schwartz what the Marvel team said about Cleveland, they loved it. You talk about the senior games. You know, we got the gay games. Everybody comes to Cleveland and loves it. We need to make this the best Republican convention ever. We need to put any politics aside. We need to focus. We need to cater. We are their host. We need to make sure this is a great experience. It's going to involve some heavy lifting by your city government and by your county government. There's going to be permitting issues. There's going to be right-of-way issues. We have on the table, or almost on the table, a plan for a new public square. We have, talks of the bridge down to the lakefront. And 2016 is kind of the due date. It's like all these things have to be wrapped up and done, or not done. We just don't want them in process. We don't want orange barrels when the Republicans come to town. So thank you.
So in terms of welcoming new residents to Cleveland, other cities like Chicago, Baltimore, and Philadelphia have welcome centers in their city hall to help assimilate immigrants. Is that something you think can and should be in Cleveland to welcome people here?
I think that we need to be absolutely open to immigrants. Whether the mechanism is a welcome center in City Hall or it's some other mechanism, I don't know exactly what that would look like. I'm certainly open to that. But being open to immigrants, being open to everybody, being open to, other residents of the United States who want to relocate to Cleveland, immigrants, whomever, we need to be a welcoming city. We are a welcoming city. We just need to let the world know that. Thanks.
President, thank you so much for joining us here at the City Club, and congratulations on your leadership and of course on all the work the city did to secure the Republican convention in 2016. I have a question about community development corporations. We have some neighborhoods that have very highly effective community development corporations and some neighborhoods that don't really have one at all. It seems that it might be in the best interest of the entire city and the entire region to have high-functioning community development corporations. And City Council is so deeply and so closely tied to the way those corporations and organizations function. And I wonder if you can talk about how to take the successes of Old Brooklyn and Ohio City and Slavic Village and other neighborhoods and make sure those are scalable and replicable across the entire city to reach every neighborhood and every member of our community.
Thanks, Dan. You got to remember that for a community development corporation, the first word is community. So the solutions have to happen at the local level. I don't believe it would be wise for the city or other entities to prescribe how a community should form a community development corporation or what services they should provide. There are some community development corporations that take a very active role in housing. There are others that take a very active role in providing services. It's all based on the unique characteristics of the community, and to get high-functioning community development corporations in each neighborhood, that's something that's got to start at the neighborhood level and rise up and become that, because people need to demand in their community a community development corporation that functions the way they want it to, whether it is service, whether it is renovation, whether it is housing code enforcement. It's got to start from the community, and I think that we can get there without too much work. Thanks.
Council President Kelley, first, thanks for your fresh, bold leadership, and you showed that recently when you worked to getting billboards in the city of Cleveland talking about the #1 epidemic, and heroin is killing more people than any other epidemic we've ever had in Cleveland. So putting your old social worker hat on when you were at Recovery Resources and now as your council president, what are some of the things that you would like to see to help address this epidemic?
Thanks, Bill. Again, this is an epidemic. This is not a habit. This is something that kills people, and it's something that we need to take just as seriously. Council recently, working with Clear Channel, we did a billboard campaign that focused on prescription drug abuse, kind of as a gateway to heroin and also as a killer in of itself. Bill, as you know, you were at the hearing that we held with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with the judiciary, with the treatment community. We need to focus on advocating for more dollars for treatment. We need to advocate for the state, where right now the ambulance drivers and first responders can administer the antidote for overdose. We need to make sure that family members have access to that as well. And we really need to to continue to raise awareness that this is not a recreational drug. This is a drug that will kill you, and we really need to state that, and there's no sugarcoating that message. If you use heroin, you will likely die. And we really need to get the message out to doctors and others that prescribe prescription drug abuse to make sure that they're warning people that this could be habit forming, and to be addicted to opiates is something that nobody in the community wants, and it will likely to other consequences up to and including death. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Any more easy ones?
I've got a question.
Okay.
I've got one.
Easy, right?
Yeah, no, hopefully not.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your assessment of the relationship between city government and the county system, county government that has come into play in recent years, and just how that dynamic works, whether you're satisfied with it, whether there are ways it can be improved, or how that works, really, from your perspective.
Yeah, thanks, you. The county council and the county executive, the whole new form of government, it was somewhat of an anomaly when it started. I mean, it was an anomaly. We didn't really know how to interact with this body when they first came online. We had a couple meet and greet types of things. But recently, we have really taken an effort to become more engaged in the county council. Cleveland City Council sends a staff member to every county council meeting now. We're very interested in working with them, and we keep an open line of communication for those things that affect both the city and the county, whether it's the demolition bond issue, whether it's the issue of the future of Metro Health. These are things that we all stay in better contact with. The relationship isn't where it should be, but it's getting better, and it's going in the right direction, and I want to continue to form a strong relationship with the county council and the county executive.
You spoke about Healthy Cleveland and the program's priority to combat infant mortality. Ohio now has the highest rate of infant mortality in the nation for minority infants. What, in your estimation, should be done about this in the state of Ohio and in the county?
Thank you. It goes without saying that infant mortality is something that just should not be tolerated in the United States of America. We have too many resources. It is just it's unacceptable, and it's painful to hear. You know, when you're in elected office, you hear a lot of bad things, but that's just still painful to even hear that. During our recent budget cycle, Councilman Simperman gave me a good education on what we can do as government to really make a difference in infant mortality. We budget additional money for the Moms First program, and I think what we really need to do is focus on in the community where there are pregnant women, where there are young children. We really need to have an aggressive outreach to them, especially young mothers that are pregnant, young women that are pregnant. We have to really increase our outreach and make sure that we're providing health care. We need to make sure that they are receiving the world-class health care that is available in Cleveland, Ohio.
Council President.
Steve, how are you?
I'm very interested in your views on the quality and quantity of Cleveland's safety forces. You referred to gun violence, but we also have a history and trying to look forward. Where do you think things stand with respect to how this city functions?
Thanks, Steve. Safety is a critical issue. It determines who's going to buy houses in which neighborhood, who's going to stay. It's your family's sense of safety and security. And I believe that it's not an issue of numbers. It's an issue of how we use the police force and the firefighting force that we have and the MS force that we have. Just a recent example. Right now, in front of County Council, Cleveland City Council passed an ordinance that would allow the county to do the jailing of our inmates instead of having the city jail and the county jail. That will result in a significant savings to the city of Cleveland. I was working with the mayor, and we've been talking about this, and Chairman Zone and council leadership, about we're going to take some of that money, and we're going to put it back on the streets in the safety forces, specifically for youth gun violence. And that's something that we've started that process. That's something the mayor's very committed to. That's something that the council's very committed to. And there are no easy answers to safety. We need aggressive policing. We need the police to be there. We need the police to be there when you call them. There's not an easy answer, but with the new initiative that we're working on, with that initiative, the Parks, Pools, and Playgrounds initiative that Mayor Jackson's administration just rolled out, we're really looking at how do we stop crime? How do we get young people from entering that life of crime? How do we keep guns away from them? How do we keep them out of violent situations? So there's no easy answer to that, but I assure you that it is something that the mayor works on every day. The Councilman Zone is going to be working on as chair of safety, and we just have to do everything. We just have to keep fighting the fight until we achieve success.
Mr. Council President, I'm going to follow up a bit on Steve's question, and this may be aimed more with the way you work with the administration. But right now, the city's workforce is aging. Retirements are showing up in larger numbers every year. So the question for council is, how are you preparing for the workforce of the future? And the second follow-on question is, how are you working to improve the image of public service to encourage people to take on a life of public service?
Let me start with the last, because it's challenging to get people involved in public service. And it's unfortunate, because I believe that, despite what may have happened in the county years ago, elected service, public service, is a very honorable profession. It doesn't pay well, and we're motivated by doing what we can to help the community. Sure, there's a few bad apples, but for whatever reason, I think that the cynicism that may have been part of the recent corruption investigation scandal, it's discouraging people from getting in. As an elected official, there's nothing better than when it's the filing deadline and you're unopposed. But at the same time, it's the worst. It's great for you, but it's not good for the system that nobody is running against you. There should be competitive races and everything. So as much as that is just one of the best days of your life, as you look at the larger system, it's kind of the worst. And the workforce is aging, and we need to prepare for that. But our population's aging as well. And we need to not look at, certainly need to look at the workforce, and we will, but we need to look at how we as a city continue to provide services as our population ages. And we have to do what we can to, bring young people back into our neighborhoods, and really do what we can to have a good balance of generations in our city.
Mr. Council President, an easy one to, I think, end
Thank
with
you.
potentially. Can you talk about the acquisition potentially of East Cleveland and your philosophy of potentially weighing the options of acquiring a city or merging with a city, whatever the terminology would be? 30 seconds or less, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for the easy one. My belief is that anybody who is firmly against it or absolutely for it doesn't have enough information. It is a very complicated proposition, and it's not one that can be entered in lightly. I think if we look at what might happen, I think that the first thing that I would need to do is I need to not put the city of Cleveland at harm. If that's something that's going to happen, there's going to need to be other players. But the first thing is that we really need to study what is a merge like. These don't happen every day. I was talking to Ned Hill from Cleveland State, and he sent me some academic information on it. The forklift got to me. And I'd like to say that I completed that reading in my spare time, but I didn't. But really, if you think about that, East Cleveland has big city problems and a small city budget. There are gems in East Cleveland that could be beneficial to the city of Cleveland. But at the same time, I mentioned that we are fighting really hard about vacant abandoned houses. Do we have the ability to take on what, for lack of a better term, what might be a liability in East Cleveland? Can we deal with the vacant abandoned houses? Can we extend, Steve asked about our safety forces. Can we extend our police, our fire there? We don't know any of this. It's certainly an issue that we should all be engaged in, we should all study, and we should ultimately act in what's in the best interest of both communities. But we're not going to impose it, and we're not going to take any action that's not in the best interest of the city of Cleveland. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we've had a special forum with Cleveland City Council President Kevin Kelley. Thank you, Mr. Kelley. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is now adjourned.